What happens when you spend your life struggling with two autoimmune conditions, unmanageable pain, and perpetual misdiagnoses? Well, for most of us, it would mean more surgeries, more pain, and a never-ending string of pharmaceutical interventions. But for our guest today, it was a catalyst needed to start developing her own clean skincare products. That would be the genesis of her luxury natural skincare company, which sources the most effective non-toxic ingredients from Europe and small suppliers in the US. This is the story of Agent Nateur with Jena Covello. Jena, nice to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to see you too. Thank you so much for having me.
You know, I call this Your Health, Your Story because everyone has a story of what led them to greater things. And, you know, I want to get into Agent Nateur, but I also want to hear about this story because it is a kind of perpetuating health thing that you hear so much about, that you're misdiagnosed, you went through the system, you struggled. Can you set the stage for how you became the owner of Agent Nateur and what you went through with your health struggles when you were younger?
Absolutely. So I had painful cycles since I was 12, like since the onset of getting my period. It was unbearable all during high school. I would have to miss school dances, and I would be in the nurse's office every month. And then when I was in my early 20s, I kind of just lived off of Aleve because that's what helped me. But then I had like severe pain in my side, and I went in for a CAT scan because at the time I didn't know that I should have really just gotten an MRI to avoid all of the radiation. So I had a CAT scan and they discovered I had a 14 centimeter chocolate cyst. And that was on my left ovary. And so I had surgery. You know, this was back in 2003. I had surgery with someone who really didn't understand how to operate on endometriosis. And she ended up giving me a laparotomy instead of a laparoscopy. So that a laparotomy is a C-section cut. And endo should never be operated on that way because endo spreads. So if you don't get it out entirely, then you spread it to other areas. So that doctor in particular, she was very rough, and she scraped my tubes and my ovaries, and I was in burning pain for, I would say, about 9 months after the surgery. And because of that surgery, I believe, and other doctors believe, that she caused adenomyosis to form, which adenomyosis is endo that grows in the muscle of the uterus. And usually women only generally have it, or are more common to have it if they've had children or if they've had C-sections. So the way it can transfer is through a C-section cut, because you're basically spreading it. When you make that surgical incision, you can spread the endo to the muscle of the uterus. And so after that surgery, I needed another surgery 5 years later from someone in New York. His name is Dr. Kanayama, and he was known to be the best surgeon at the time. And he did a good job in getting all of the remnants of the endometriosis out. And he told me that she had just left a ton of scar tissue and that she was extremely rough with me. And after that, 2 years later, I developed a hydrosalpinx from either the endo or from the surgery itself. A hydrosalpinx is when the tube closes due to all scar tissue. So my right fallopian tube closed. And I had basically at that point, that was in 2010, and I started seeing this holistic dermatologist, and she's really a functional doctor. And she really started teaching me about how all of these surgeries were causing so much scar tissue to form. And she put me on a supplement. She put me on MSM, which I'm actually releasing with Dr. Will Cole. So she put me on MSM to break up the scar tissue. And she told me, she's like, the pain you're having right now is from scar tissue. It's actually not from endometriosis. And I said, well, do you have a good gynecologist that I can see in LA? And she's like, I don't even know where to send you because I don't even trust any of them. So I went to 3 gynecologists. Was back in 2010. And they said, oh, your uterus is twisted. You have a tilted uterus. It's your endometriosis. And I said, it's not. I said, the pain it's my right tube and it feels like somebody's twisting it. And they told me, they're like, you don't know where your tube is. That's not true. Like, it's not your tube. So anyway, I was fighting with like 3 doctors at the same time. And so I found this one surgeon from USC, and I was very hesitant to go into surgery. She said, let me just do an exploratory surgery, because I was in agonizing pain where I was at the ER for like 3 cycles, like flipping out in so much pain, like unbearable. They were like, at the time, if they were giving me morphine, if you go to the ER now for endo, they'll treat it with something else. And I can't think of the name. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but they won't give you morphine anymore. And they think that endo patients are really just going to the ER because we want to get high or we wanted to get morphine, which the morphine would just take the edge off. It wouldn't even make me high. That's how bad the pain was. It was so excruciating. Anyway, she went in for the exploratory surgery. She said, your endo is gone. She said, but your tube is closed. So I drained the tube. You have a hydrosalpinx. You were right. It was the tube. She said, I want to remove your tubes, but I didn't have consent. And I'm like, do not remove my tubes. And so I actually started going to Orange County, and I was doing something called the Warren technique, where a practitioner will actually physically go inside and manually massage the fallopian tubes to open them. And I had a lot of success with doing that, and with doing the MSM, and with taking systemic enzymes to break down the scar tissue. And then after that, I was good, pain-free, I would say for 4 years, 0 pain. And then all of a sudden, the pain started with a vengeance, like 9 years ago, almost 9 years ago in January. And then that's when my doctors were saying avoid antiperspirant in deodorant because it's an endocrine disruptor and it can mimic estrogen. And I had enough estradiol, like my number was a 965. I think it should be between like, I don't know, 1 and 200. So I had 5 to 9 times the amount of estrogen that I should have had. So my first step was finding a deodorant, which I couldn't find one to work. So I started making my own. I had no idea that I was going to turn it into a company. But all of my friends were like, can I have more of that deodorant because it really works? And that's how Asian Nateur was birthed, basically.
And that's how it came about, all through the deodorant and heavy metals. 3 things come to mind with that story, and I'll go over quickly. Is number 1, surgery and scar tissue are serious things. Like surgery, see, I know we push for it in conventional medicine, like, hey, you have this, let's go into surgery, we'll just cut it out. I mean, my father started off in surgery and anesthesiology and went into pain medicine and then finally into integrative medicine over the last 30, 40 years. But he said it's a barbaric thing sometimes to cut open the body, like you said, to scrape. And sometimes it's really vicious. It's like putting muscle, and you're even if you're under, your body still has a cellular memory. It's a lot of, pain and trauma that happen in surgery. So to go through those and to be acknowledged later on of, hey, that surgery left you in pain, not the endometriosis, is something that's not shocking to me, but probably to a lot of people. Number 2, the fact that doctors didn't believe you, and you were right. It happens too much, right? Where doctors don't trust patients and us as a whole, but we're supposed to put the trust in the doctors. And then when things go wrong, oh, well, and then it should have listened to you and your body, which you should know best, even more so than any doctor. That's a scary thought that I think medicine really needs to change. And the third one is how many damn endocrine disruptors there are in everyday products. Like you said, we don't know that, but so many people listen, air double L, like all of them have aluminum in them, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that sparked you into doing that. Do you think it was just, the deodorant? Was that just the start of you learning about how many products have heavy metals and endocrine disruptors?
Well, first of all, my dad has a circle of holistic doctors surrounding him. And I first started getting interested in supplements in 1998 because I visited LA for a supplement conference, and I was like 18 or 19 at the time. So, he was teaching me a lot. And when I was 16, like he was saying, don't use deodorant because it's really bad and it has aluminum. And I was like, you're crazy and psycho. That was like in 1996. So it was in my ear, but I wasn't listening or practicing it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of being a contrarian and saying like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, for sure. Once I saw the numbers of how much estrogen I actually had in my system, I started to like really pay attention more to that. And to your point about surgery and scar tissue, you damage the fascia, so if you're going to have surgery, you need to do the myofascial release. You need the physical manipulation to break up that fascia. Fascia, for you guys that don't know, your body looks like it's actually covered in a spider web. And it's all of this fibrous tissue. And when you have surgery, the fascia begins to clump in that area, and it causes a lot of tension, and it could cause a lot of like deferred pain almost, where you can feel pulling and pain in one area because it's coming from another area from the fascia being clumped together and causing scar tissue. So in terms of the heavy metals, I had been doing heavy metal tests, I guess, since around 2009. And I was high in aluminum. And then once I cut out like cooking, like salmon in aluminum foil, and I got rid of aluminum pots and pans. And when I cut out the deodorant, my aluminum level in my heavy metal test like went to like 0. But then I had lead poisoning from the bath water in LA. So I had to do a whole chelation of, getting the lead out, which I lost all sense of taste, by the way. But in terms of products, look, I think that there's a lot of, I'm sorry for the noise. I'm in downtown LA. It's wild here.
All good. If there isn't a dog disrupting at least once during the podcast, then it's not a real podcast for me.
But in terms of the products and what you're talking about, I think, and I've said this like since 2016, since I went to school in France for natural cosmetics and fragrance. Just because something is synthetic does not mean it's an endocrine disruptor. And just because something is natural doesn't mean that it's 100% good. And so in this whole green beauty world, they have demonized a lot of synthetic products that actually aren't problematic. For example, parabens. There are parabens that have been on the market for 30 plus years that cause no problems at all. And it's actually illegal now to say paraben free because it's giving all parabens a bad name. The problem is the regulation in America. And it's that there's zero regulation, zero safety guides. So I go by European safety guides, which legally I have to because I sell in Europe, right? So a toxicologist tests all of my products, and it goes through a very rigorous process with my chemist as well. So the newer parabens that are endocrine disruptors and are a problem, they're banned in Europe. They're still able to be used in America. So that's the problem with what's happening with green beauty. They're kind of demonizing anything that's synthetic when they really don't have a firm understanding that not all synthetics are bad. And also it's specific problem. It's specific things that are a problem, like BHT, which is used as an antioxidant so that makeup doesn't go bad. BHT is a huge endocrine disruptor. It's used in almost like all lipsticks and a lot of makeup products. That's one that for sure is bad. But most synthetics that are on the market in Europe are not so bad. There's a list that you like abide by and you don't use for green beauty in Europe. And that list, I feel like actually has real regulation and science behind it.
Yeah. And, going back to the lead poisoning, lead toxicity, I just saw, like, I think it was WHO, like, released that over 1 million people die of lead poisoning every year. Like, it's so common how many people, and we don't realize it because it is. Think about it. We filter water and then we put them through lead pipes to get to us. So of course they're going to have elevated lead, where I think in Chicago, it's like, a high percentage have above the recommended dosage, like, what you could put in water. So drinking water in general is like one, but why is it that cosmetic products over the years became this like go-to source for heavy metals? Like what led it that way?
Well, first and foremost, LA County had higher lead levels than Flint, Michigan.
Really? Ooh.
Yes. And the LA Times published it, and you can't find the article anymore. You have to dig really deep. I have it posted on my Instagram page, on my private page, and my public Agent Nateur page, because no one is really aware of that. Nope. In terms of metal that's in cosmetics, I am just starting right now to get into color and makeup. So I know that, I know that it was present in some eyeliners that are being used, like to get like a charcoal effect. But to be honest with you, my category and knowledge is really within skincare and with deodorant. And so for aluminum, for example, it's used because it stops the sweating, and when you reduce the sweating and you close those pores, you're not going to smell or sweat as much, which is also bad because, you want the body to sweat and you want to get those toxins out. And, if you can use some natural ingredients that decrease the sweat, which you can now find those ingredients that are safe and effective, that's fine. But, when I converted to my deodorant, it completely hid and took away any smell or odor, but I sweat profusely for a solid year because I was clogging my pores with that antiperspirant. So for a year, I told everybody it took me 1 solid year to stop sweating. I really don't sweat anymore now since I went through that process, and it is like a detoxification process.
Sweating is a natural detoxification process, something we all kind of do, some more than others. And of course, we have so many toxins in our world that we need to sweat. That ability to do that, to use our skin as a detoxification organ on top of the liver, the kidneys and the lymphatic system. Now, let me ask you this, because I feel I usually get in this kind of conundrum. Is it the responsibility of companies to remove all these, ingredients, or is it more so the demand of consumers? Because the truth is, a lot of consumers know about aluminum being bad, and they continue to use it in their deodorant because they don't want to sweat at all. They would rather put that convenience of a cheap product that stops them from sweating and is a good thing in that way than their health, which they say down the line, who knows, maybe this will impact me or not. Which, do you put that responsibility on both the consumer, or do you really put that more on those manufacturers that know they're putting these toxic ingredients into our products?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. And I think that's an ethical and moral question that you're asking me. Well, one, look, I think let's take Donna Karen's deodorant, for example. She has an antiperspirant. It's really, really effective and women love it, right? And let's say like a woman is like getting married and the natural deodorants make her sweat more. They don't work for her and she needs like a day like to not smell bad and sweat. I mean, she should have that option. Do I think that Donna Karen purposely put something on the market that was harmful? Absolutely not. I think that as science evolved and changed and more knowledge came out and became more mainstream, which yes, maybe my dad knew about that in 1996, but a lot of people would say in 1996 that he was a conspiracy theorist and that was a lie. And then, 15 years later, it comes out to be the truth. So, for me personally, I never want to harm anyone, and I only want to use ingredients that I know have a lot of scientific studies behind them, but science evolves and changes. And maybe there's a natural ingredient that people are saying is fine now that it won't be fine later.
Right.
We don't know. We don't know like the answer to that question. So for me, I always look at the studies and the data behind every ingredient that I use. And I'll never put out anything harmful just because my ethos and my integrity and the way I built my company was based on my pain and suffering with this disease. So I have a different angle, I have a different reason, and, but I can't answer that for other people. And I think it's up to the consumer to take responsibility for themselves and, to do the work, which a lot of people are lazy and they don't like to put in that extra work. But my clients are very educated. They're extremely knowledgeable, and, they know probably just as much as me, a percentage of them.
That's the beauty about working in this industry, health and kind of more the holistic medicine field, is that you do have an audience, clientele that are usually very up on the know and place health first, right? Because there are people that may know about this stuff. Again, aluminum, you may know it's bad for you. It gets into the bloodstream through the use of all different types of products, but you continue to use it. You might have your health right now and it's not a big deal, right? It's when you lose it, then you say, oh shit, like I got to backtrack now and look at everything I have to do to regain your health. As someone that's lost your health, I mean, what else is more important? You're going to spend a few more dollars on a product to keep that, your health intact.
The issue is this. Like people who are MTHFR positive and who have autoimmune conditions, it's a blessing and a curse. And a blessing is that we're so sensitive to things that we can catch things before they turn into a huge problem. Whereas someone who has amazing health, eats like shit every day, doesn't do anything, and then all of a sudden they're hit with, God forbid, a terminally ill disease. They didn't have any like little triggers or warning signs going off to basically say this is a problem. So, which is sad, because I don't have that path. I'm super sensitive to everything. So that's kind of like my protection and my shield almost. But in terms of the aluminum, somebody should do a before and after heavy metal test to see what their results are using the antiperspirant and then using a natural deodorant and physically looking at that test to see if the aluminum changes, which I guarantee if they cut the aluminum foil, the aluminum pots and pans, and the antiperspirant out, they'll see for themselves the effect that has on their body.
Yeah, the quantifiable level that you could do with those sort of things, it's right in front of you. It's not a guessing game of maybe I feel a little better. You're actually seeing it within those tests. Are there any other tests that you advocate for or you do yourself to kind of keep yourself in check as far as toxicity or just general health markers?
I number one will never go to a Western doctor for any of my tests because they're so basic and they're not advanced. So a Western doctor will test your thyroid and test your hormones and say everything is normal. Where, as you know, a functional doctor will really go in depth. Like when Will Cole takes my blood, it's like 30 vials. Whereas if you go to your Western doctor, it's like a vial or two of blood that they take. So I'm actually due to have like a comprehensive panel done, but I used to do the Dutch test, which I don't believe is accurate. I believe it's faulty. So I prefer to do like an advanced blood test for my hormones. I do the heavy metal test. But those are the two things I really try to keep an eye on the most. What other diagnostic tests do you like to do? Like, what are your...
I'm actually, I do the lab tests. I feel like a lot of them, even the more advanced ones, they give you a good understanding, but they're downstream a little bit. Like they're showing you the after effects of something. When you do some of the like more, I would say like HRV kind of testing, especially on autonomic response, like you can start to understand a little bit more of the initiation points that lead to those parameters. So if you have autonomic response that's off and you're too sympathetic, that's going to screw up your hormones, and that's going to go downstream into different levels of things that make deplete you of your nutrients. So I'm like, I love the functional stuff, but I love to also correspond that with more bioenergetic, like oligo scan, to double check what is within the tissue, not just the blood. What is the mineral count? What is heavy metal and nutrients? So it's kind of looking at both. And it gives you a little bit more of that picture of just what's in the blood, which a lot of times is, to me, downstream. So it's upstream as well. But I mean, I think in general, like understanding that everything is cause and effect, that if you have aluminum, you're not just going to have aluminum toxicity. That's probably going to impact a lot of other markers as well. So that's your kind of initiation point. But also understanding, is it stress? Is it something that those markers don't come up with? Can we prove that a little bit more so that we're getting cause and effect? The effect is all of the functional lab tests with the blood, and the cause is also being shown in a test and not just the determination of a practitioner.
I think what you just touched on, the stress, my dad, anytime I've had an issue, my dad would say, well, what's going on emotionally? And, I'm really on this new path where I was on such a strict diet. I was on the AIP diet for years. I didn't touch gluten unless I was in Europe. I didn't touch any processed sugar. I only ate low glycemic fruit. I was only eating blueberries. Like I eliminated everything, right?
Yeah.
And I was so extreme. And to be honest with you, it didn't make me feel any better, because I think there were emotional things that were going on. And I think, I hate to say it, but I think if you are emotionally balanced and truly happy and you have good relationships around you, that supersedes like anything you eat for the most part. And I'm not saying to go out and, have McDonald's or fast food, but there is a stronger correlation with the emotional body, and how that affects your health versus how food is affecting you. I truly believe that, because for the first time since my last truly pain-free period of cycles, where I had months and months being pain-free, was December 2013. I've been pain-free since July right now. Not throwing up. I've thrown up, I'd say 11 out of 12 periods a month since 2014. Almost every month I'm on the floor throwing up. I've been great since the end of July. And I think that has to do with relationships. And I think it has to do with physical movement. I've been working out with Madonna's ex-trainer. He trained her for the Blonde Ambition tour. And he's responsible for making her arms pretty famous during that time. And he trained me more and Sharon Stone. And he works me really hard. And there's something about that movement in the area of my hips and the sciatic area and my pelvis, where he's removing the stagnation. And I think that there's a better flow of energy in that area, through movement, through working out, through dance, through sex. I don't know, but there's something that has to do with physically moving that stagnation. And I've had other trainers before that have not been able to help with the pain. They've actually intensified my pain. So whatever he's doing is really working for me. And I'm not as strict as I was with with my diet as I used to be. I'm really disciplined with my supplements still. But sometimes, I give I had a cheat night last night where I cheated and I had some pasta. So.
Well, it's funny because I completely agree with you that there are so many people that come through our doors at the clinic that are so strict with their diet, but so stressed, emotionally just not there and really, really sick. And they would say they're completely healthy.
And they would say they're fine. And they would say, you would
Absolutely.
say, what's the emotional cause? And they would say nothing.
Yes.
They say, I don't know. Everything is fine. But it's their thoughts. It's their thoughts.
Oh, it's their thoughts. It's their belief system, subconscious, their relationships. They've just kind of materialized this idea that that's not going to impact their health. Because look, I'm eating so clean. I'm going to the gym. I have the trainer and everything. That emotional side is so important. I mean, listen, my mother's a psychologist. Like I get, she drills people that's so important to your level of health and happiness. If you're not emotionally there, it doesn't matter. You could do all the things in the world as far as physically, but emotions are such. We know that through the HPA axis, through, PNEI system, it's all starts with your thoughts.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of people don't get it. They think medicine is purely physical. It's in a pill. It's only in the surgeries, but we got to change this attitude around it. And I think part of it is producing very natural products because we know that we can have mental kind of issues due to toxins. Toxins impact the brain. They impact how we feel. They impact so much. And if you're not healthy on that level, it's very hard to be a happy person and have good thoughts when we're feeling sick.
Absolutely. Back to the HPA axis, my HPA axis was completely off. COVID started, the lockdown started. I was panicking. My cat died. My grandma died. And then everything in LA went completely insane. And I picked up and moved to Miami. And hang on one second. But there's some kind of garbage truck outside.
It's not that audible, so you're good.
Okay. So I moved to Miami. The HPA axis was completely messed up. And so I started taking Quinton, the electrolytes in the morning.
Minerals,
and I started taking a lot of magnesium at night. I live on the beach. My place is literally on the water. So listening to those waves crash is literally like taking Xanax because of the negative ions and the sound. It's extremely relaxing. And those three things balanced my HPA axis. And what you're saying about the products, my products, I can't make claims on them, right? I can't make any scientific claims, but the body oil, for example, there's something very nurturing about putting that oil on, and it has helichrysum in it, which is the highest vibration of all the essential oils. Helichrysum comes from they call it the immortal flower because the petals never die and they never discolor. So when you pick the flower, it stays yellow forever. I visited Salvador Dali's house in Spain, and his original helichrysum filled the house, and it was still yellow and still so fragrant. So it's extremely powerful for anti-aging and for scars. And so when I put my body oil on, it feels like a ritual. It feels like I'm nurturing myself, really taking care of myself. I'm hesitant to say the word heal because I don't want anybody coming after me, but it just feels so healing to put that oil on myself. And that's the biggest feedback that I get from my clients. They're like, this oil has healed my scars and my wounds, and it feels so amazing and nurturing to put it on. So I think incorporating those rituals into your routine also help the emotional body to heal.
It's all connected. I think nature in itself provides so many of the ingredients, energies that help balance us and help us to optimal health, achieve that. And optimal health, of course, is not just the physical body. It's not just biochemistry. It's the psycho-emotional, that kind of spiritual quantum, consciousness level as well of happiness, fulfillment, and purpose and all of that. But take us through, because that's really interesting about using that specific, plant for your product. How do you start researching and developing a product with Agent Nateur? Like what is the process like there?
So I basically went to someone who is in LA who's extremely knowledgeable with essential oils. And I said to her, I want to know the most powerful essential oils to use. Just give me the most powerful anti-aging. I want like the most powerful and the most expensive. I like everything that's like expensive and good quality. And I really want to be known like as the Hermes of my products, just because I love good quality.
Yeah.
And the two oils she said were rose and helichrysum. Mm. And so I started to play with the helichrysum and I saw results. So I'm all about efficacy and I'm very results driven.
Yeah.
And I won't put something out unless it's actually effective and actually works. A lot of people have marketing tactics that they use when they release their products, and then the product's like shit. And I want people to see the quality and feel it for themselves. And I want the products to kind of speak for themselves.
Right.
So when I started to play with the helichrysum, I had feedback, like I had started with the face oil. It has helichrysum and rose, and it has to be a specific kind of rose, by the way. Like you should never put a rose absolute on the face, because rose absolute goes through a different kind of process than a distillation. A rose absolute is usually created for fragrance and for perfume. And so it goes through a process with hexane where they clean the petals and then they process it to extract the oil. And when they do that, it can irritate the face. It's not bad. It's not harmful. It can just it can just irritate. And you really want to use that absolute only for fragrance purposes, for natural fragrance purposes. Whereas like a rose damascena, which is like one of the highest quality roses that you can use. It's extremely expensive. I don't know. I mean, the price of rose is insane right now, but I don't know. You can pay anywhere between like $10,000 and $20,000 for like a kilo of rose damascena. That rose in particular is high in vitamin C. And the reason I like to use it is because when you have something that's high in vitamin C, it makes the other products absorb a little bit better. Just like, I combine vitamin C when I take iron because I'm anemic. And I know that when I combine the vitamin C with the iron, that it's going to work a bit better because vitamin C makes everything absorb better. So it's the same topically. So I include the rose. Yes, it has antioxidant properties. Yes, it's high in vitamin C, but I find that it makes my other products work a little bit better. Overall, I think that essential oils can really be irritating on the face. So I just stick with those two in particular, rose and helichrysum. And then anything else I use is extremely low percentages. And that would only be for fragrance purposes.
Yeah,
but for the body, I play a lot with all kinds of essential oils and isolates and absolutes.
Yeah, I really like that idea of, first off, testing on yourself, experiential, not making it a marketing thing, because a lot of people just sit back and say, what are the keywords here? And let's put this one with this one and make a product and put it out there. And the other idea is synergy. In any natural or health product, anti-aging skin product, anything, there needs to be a synergy. You can't just, my father described it as making a meal. You can't just put a bunch of ingredients together because they sound good and it's suddenly going to be a great meal that you present and it's going to taste well. There's got to be synergy between the spices, everything you put on the plate together. And it sounds like that's a lot of what your products are doing. They're synergizing off of each other to make them better than the individual parts are. Now,
In some ways, I think, the pain, all of the pain, the physical pain of the endometriosis, like
Yeah.
I have this gift where I am able to formulate. It does go through a strict regulatory process, and my chemist checks everything, but she doesn't really quite understand how I know how to do it. And it is a gift of mine that I don't speak about much because I don't want to get attacked since I'm not a chemist. But I do understand formulation and percentages, and I don't know where that comes from exactly. So it's like, I like to attribute it to, like, I don't know, I think, God gave me this disease and also gave me a way to like heal it, because if it weren't for this disease, I wouldn't have my company.
Right. It's the blessing and the curse. And I think anyone that's gone through a serious chronic condition and comes out the other side will see it someday as the blessing. Of course, during it, it's a total curse. There's no doubt about it. Anyone you speak to with a tough condition where they're really suffering sees that as a very bad thing, and rightfully so. But when you get past it, you can then see it brings you to a new level. It kind of evolves you into something else and lets you see things differently and create new things based off that. In your case, this great line. And one of the products in the great line that I know a lot of people talk about, I've tried it myself, I really like it, is the Holly Mane that you created with Dr. Will Cole. It's a big one. Can you tell us about that and how you alchemized and came up with that one?
So based on Will's ability to be the first person to balance my hormone and to get that estradiol level down, which he did it. This was the first time any naturopath or holistic doctor had given me this tip. I was loading up on phytoestrogens and tempeh and cruciferous vegetables to try to cancel out the xenoestrogens, which xenoestrogen is the bad estrogen that you want to get out of the body. And it's found in products, and it's found in plastic and water bottles. And because basically the plastic leaches onto the water bottle and then turns into xenoestrogen. Anyway, he said, cut the phytoestrogens out, because when your body is overburdened with so much estrogen, it can't tell the difference between good and bad estrogen. So you're just loading more in. No one had ever said that. And I did that. And the supplements he put me on, and then doing the chelation for the heavy metals, balanced my hormones. So I went back to him. This was like in 2017. And I said, look, I really believe in you. And at the time, by the way, Will had like 2,000 followers on Instagram. And like now he's like really surpassed me. Up. But I really believed in him. And he had 2,000 followers on Instagram. It wasn't like he was this huge doctor and, I was after him because of his following. I said, you really helped me, and I want to make a supplement with you. So we made something called Holy Youth, which had spirulina and collagen, pearl, holy basil, something to really help the adrenal glands, something that was calming. And people hated it. And they would open it, and like I would do trainings at Neiman Marcus, and they would open it and they'd be like, oh my God, this smells disgusting. It was the spirulina, by the way, which I hate spirulina. And actually spirulina actually made me very sick for a number of years. I'm so happy to be actually off of it, because it gave me bad headaches. And my mom was the one who basically made the connection. Anyway, it never sold. I hated how it tasted. I couldn't promote it because like, I just felt like I just can't be fake and promote something that I don't like. And so I like stopped promoting it. I have people who still really like it. I still really don't promote it. So anyway, my mom said, I hate spirulina and I hate this product, but your collagen and pearl really work. She's like, you have the best collagen I've ever taken. And she goes, and I see results with it. She goes, just send me your collagen and pearl and nothing else. And I was like, wow, that's a good idea, because the collagen is odorless and tasteless. And so is the pearl. So I went back to Will and I said, hey, my mom had this idea. I'm like, let's reformulate it. And he's like, you don't have to include me. He's like, it's not my idea. It's yours. And I said, no, but I know about collagen and pearl. I'm like, and I'm determined to make a successful product with you. So let's relaunch it. And we relaunched it in 2020. We had no idea that everyone's hair was falling out from COVID. So we launch it, and then all of these women are messaging me saying, it's making my hair grow back. And we had no idea that one of the effects of COVID would be hair loss. So then from there, it just really blew up. And there's a lot of like collagen naysayers out there, but just take it for yourself and see. Like I said, like, I don't feel like I need to sit here and explain myself to these people who trash collagen. Stay on it for 3 to 6 months, see how your hair, skin, and nails improve, and read there's a scientific book of dermatology. I think it's called Wiley. I have it on my highlights under clinicals or Holy Maid, where they say how marine collagen peptides bring more hydration to the skin and how it helps wrinkles and aging so much. And we know for sure that collagen is very gelatinous. There's different qualities of collagen, by the way, which I want to get into. My collagen is very gelatinous. So what does collagen do? First and foremost, it coats the gut lining. When you coat the gut lining with that slippery, gelatinous peptide, you have less inflammation in the gut because you have less leaky gut. So first and foremost, it helps the leaky gut. And so when you help the leaky gut, there's less inflammation in the gut. When there's less inflammation in the gut, there's less inflammation in the skin. And a lot of people know me that if somebody comes to me and says, like, I have really bad acne and it's hormonal, and I said, okay, well, you need to like look into lowering your testosterone because nuts, eggs, dairy, beef, and tuna are high in testosterone. And if you try to cut those out, it may improve your skin. Before I give them any recommendation on what to do topically, it's like what's going on internally first. Right. So I love collagen because it has like this multifaceted effect on the body and of course on the outside, which it's truly a beauty supplement that truly works on the outside because it's working on the inside. Mm-hmm. And so when I started to get feedback on the collagen, they said, why does your collagen work versus another brand who's like a lot cheaper? And I went back to my manufacturer and I said, why, like to my supplier. And I said, why does this collagen work versus X, Y, and Z? And we third party tested the other collagens. And what we found is that they were agglomerating the collagen. So they took the granule and they blow it up with a gum or a starch or an inflammatory oil like sunflower oil, which they don't have to list on any of the packaging. Wow. They blow up the granule to make it appear larger. And so they could fill the bag faster. So that's why it's cheaper. So that's why if you look at my collagen, it's very dense and sticky and it doesn't dissolve so easy because it's concentrated and you're getting a much higher dosage of the actual collagen versus me taking that granule, blowing it up, making it appear larger in the bag. And then I'm able to fill, maybe I'm able to fill 4 or 5 bags from one bag of my collagen if I agglomerated it.
So that's the dirty secret of others that you're not doing, of course, and getting it to that. Is that your favorite Agent Nateur product?
Oh gosh, I have some. Well, I would say it's Holy Maid, Holy Bright, my mask, my face oil, and Holy Water.
Okay, so you're giving 4 favorites there.
They're amazing products. Like, I don't know, the Holy Lux, and now I just released the Body Balm and the Body Wash, which we're starting to break into the fragrance category, which is going to take a lot of re-education because not every synthetic fragrance is bad. Again, It goes back to what is being formulated with the synthetic fragrance. But yeah, I don't know. My products are really special and the textures and the absorbency. Like when I test other products, like if I test another body oil or face oil, I'm like, this is so sticky and tacky and gross. Like my textures are really, really special. And I take a lot of pride in them. So have you tried anything yet?
Oh, I've done the Holy Maid before. Yeah, I've done the Holly Mane. That was given to us actually a while ago. Another patient that was here that knew Will Cole and brought it in. And so we all tried it here. And we test all the products ourselves, a lot of these things. So when it came up, it was good. And, our whole medical team was behind it. I was like, give me that. And I've been using that. But I know a lot of the practitioners here, especially the nurses, use a lot of the Agent Nateur products and promote it. So when they heard you were coming on, they were like, oh, nice.
You email me your team so I can make packages for everyone.
Ooh, they would love that. They would love that. That's very nice. Thank you so much. And you said that the fragrances are kind of something you're excited about in the pipeline. Is that where your focus is right now, kind of going after the toxic fragrance market and tapping into that a little bit?
Well, first, I'm launching a clean SPF.
You are? Okay.
Free.
I am very big on sunscreens in general being huge endocrine disruptors, most of them, and being very bad for your health. Although many dermatologists don't like when I post those things. Yes,
I've been working on it since 2017. It's finally formulated.
Awesome.
It's completely clean. It's going to launch in June. I'm just picking out my packaging right now. So it's literally like 7 years in the making. And so after that, I'm going to get into fragrance and color. So I'll have more info about the makeup and the ingredients in makeup as I go along.
Very cool. Those are things I'm sure a lot of people are looking out for. I want to be mindful of your time. I know you only got a few minutes left before you have to jump off, but I know also I've followed you on Instagram for a while. You're not one to turn away from a controversy or fear censorship. I know this. I've seen a lot of your posts, and I feel the same way as a conspiracy theorist myself, been called one a little bit, even though I'm not. But what do you think? Like, so you've been censored a lot. You're free and open. What do you think is coming as far as prediction for the near future? Are we going to continue our pandemic days and masking and mandates? No, you're good. We're good now.
I think next week is going to be like a real landslide.
Do you agree with Joe Rogan? It's going to be like The Shining and then red, like coming out the doors and a complete Republican sweep.
You know something? I don't vote actually. So I'm so opinionated, and people really have this like idea of who I am, which I just kind of like to like fuck with them and have them think what they want about me. Yeah. I think that there are extreme views on both sides that are extremely unhappy, unhealthy, right? So I have talked about vaccines since 2012. For the past 10 years, it started on my Facebook, and my stance is exactly what it was 10 years ago. I'm censored on Instagram because I said that I caught COVID from 2 people who were boosted, and that they went out and about and didn't stay home, and they gave me COVID, and that the vaccine is leaky and doesn't stop transmission. Where's the lie in that? You can't tag me on Instagram because I said that. And I've been calling this out of, in 2016, I said, thank God Hillary lost because she's going to really enforce mandates with adult vaccines. And I was called crazy for that, which we knew that was like in the pipeline. If you just research and you look at the CDC list of how they're like gearing everyone up for all these adult vaccines, you would know like they've been saying it, like I think since like the early 2000s or late 90s, all the information is out there. It's just that people don't do a lot of research. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that there are a lot of crazy conspiracists out there that have made a lot of false statements. And I am not one of those people. And I stand by every single thing I've ever posted, and I take nothing back. And I have a track record for being right 99.9% of the time. I've said a lot of really controversial things back in 2019, which I won't get into. And guess what? Right now, it's all been confirmed and it's all true and it's all being spread and the truth is out there. And I don't even have to say anything because it's is what it is with, you know, with certain professors at colleges getting fired for, you know, promoting what I said they would start to promote. That's all happening and it's all out in the public. So I feel like I can just sit back and kind of laugh at this point. But gosh, I could say so many things to you right now that I just want to be careful of saying because I know that this shit is like not going to last. And I think next week will be a landslide. With that being said, California, as long as California is controlled by these people, I don't know what will happen in California. I'm interested to see if Caruso will win next week for mayor. We'll see what happens, but I don't have high hopes for that. But I have high hopes in the sense that I knew, and what I've said since day one, California dictates policy for the rest of America. So California is always at the forefront of kind of what the law will be for the rest of America, and it trickles through the rest of America. And Florida stood up to California, and that's why I moved there in 2020, because I knew that Florida was going to stand up and say no to Newsom. You are not allowing these laws to trickle to the rest of America. And that caused a huge division, and that caused each state to kind of become sovereign in its approach with policy. And so with all of the laws going back to the state, I think each state is going to be governed very differently from each other. And like I said, I think there's extremeness on both sides. I think it's psychotic that, you know, women who are raped or children who are raped that can't get an abortion. Like for me, that crosses a major line. And I think it's sick, like what that governor had said in Ohio. I am not on board with the extreme things that go on either side. I think we really need to get back to common sense.
Yeah.
And that's like what's really missing. And I'm very grateful that I moved to Florida.
Yeah, I have to say that I think this is a time of very black and white, as you said, very extremes. And usually, you know, where you're trying to find the truth is usually in the middle. It's not a black or white issue. Most of things have terrible polarities in life, but where you try to be is balanced in the middle. And unfortunately, when you get further away from the balance, you get further away from health, happiness, truthfulness. Sometimes you become a little bit, irritated and agitated by everything, which I think we're seeing in today's society. Oh, yeah. So I'm hoping that in the future, people will start to come back a little bit, right?
I think they are. And I think it even like goes into like what we were saying about health, like being so extreme with the diet, but not like really looking at the mental health and the emotional aspect. It's the same thing, like having these very extreme polarized views and not listening to each other and not being able to see like where your side of politics might be acting crazy and only seeing like your viewpoint, like that's like a real issue. So I think people are starting to get back to the center, thank God. And I think this cancel culture is insane, which, you know, they've tried to cancel me since 2016 and it just didn't happen. The more they tried to cancel, the more I sold and the better I did, which told me that I had a lot of people and maybe the majority on my side that were outside of LA. And I just kept going. And you know what? I have to really thank all my haters because I will have $1 billion valuation one day and I couldn't have done it without them.
You got to thank the haters. They make you strong. Honestly, it's like, you know, people that go through, tough times come out stronger. And that usually makes them a better person in the end, healthier person. So, yeah, to Jena's haters, thank you. If you're listening, thank you so much.
They love to listen. They're all going to be listening. I love it because I just literally like, you know, you never want to give someone you don't like any energy because you're giving away. Like I always look at it as if you give someone you don't like your energy and your hate and all these bad feelings, you're giving them money because money is energy.
Absolutely.
And you can channel that energy towards something productive, like that hate that you feel for someone, you should take that hate, instead of trying to cancel them, you should alchemize it and turn it into something creative that will turn into money. So that's how I always look at it. So all their hate, I just turn into money for myself. So I take their bad energy and alchemize it and turn it into more success for myself.
Such an amazing lesson tip to end on, because I feel like too many people get bogged down by the hate. Turn it around, use it in your favor. Don't jump into it. Don't give them that time and, let the trolls win and everything. It's tough, but that is an amazing tip. Jena, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you and Agent Nateur?
Oh, well, they can go to agentnateur.com and they can read my health blog and my whole process and journey with Agent and all I've learned. I'm like a guinea pig. So I feel like I've tried everything, Eastern, Western. I've tried so many different things to heal myself. So my blog is like a wealth of information for people. But thank you so much for having me on. I don't do podcasts so much anymore. This is my first one and probably since the pandemic and lockdown. So thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. No, that's so good to hear. Thank you. I truly appreciate this. And for everyone listening, listen, haters are going to hate, but in a world that's becoming more and more toxic, in large part because of consumer products, it's great to see makers like Jena that are committed to developing high quality products that are clean, cruelty-free, and dedicated to sustainability and socially conscious practices. So until next time, keep writing your own healing story.